is available to scientists. And for quite a while, that actually worked really rather well, except that at one point, Rob McCool, who was like one of the main developers at NCSA in America, left to form Netscape. And all of a sudden, there was this web server piece of software, which we all depended on for our jobs, suddenly was left out there orphaned. So what started to happen was that we sort of like started to collaborate together to maintain that piece of software, to make it better, to basically make it meet sort of like our like daily demands. That basically became the Apache web server at one point.
How popular is the Apache server?
The World Wide Web sort of like originated from CERN in Switzerland. And with it came a very like small server, which was only really suitable to be run on mainframes at that time. Since then, basically, we've sort of like grown from like being just a few percent to like well over like 70% of the web servers in the world. Specifically, if you go to like the very large super sites like Yahoo, like Amazon, those are typically the sites which run the Apache web server. So if you actually look on the wire, if you look at like the number of pages being served by Apache or the amount of bandwidth Apache basically uses worldwide, the numbers are even higher than that 70%.
A lot of people who believe in open source say it's empowering not only to developers but to users as well in the end, because it's about freedom versus being dominated by proprietary software and those proprietary software developers. What is your whole feel with regards to open source and the future in that?
I have to disappoint you there, or basically disappoint people who are looking in the Apache Software Foundation, sort of like for people on a mission who really want to evangelize open source in the world. Most people in the Apache Foundation are actually not quite like that. They're sort of like, they typically have like real jobs, real customers, who just have like demands. And they found that the cheapest way, or the highest quality way, or some other compromise way of actually serving their customers is by using open source software and collaborating by others. So most people are simply there because it makes sense to build software together.
What threats do you foresee the internet will face in the future?
Right now, you can use the same web browser, the same web server, anywhere on the internet. Whether you're in China, in America, in South Africa, it doesn't matter. Everything can talk to everything, and everyone can basically using the same language there. And of course, there is always a risk that at some point, a certain area of the internet sort of like starts to speak their private language.
Dirk, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Thank you for joining us here at Go Open. And from all of us, you have a wonderful day.
I'm kidding. I was kidding. It's a joke. Here's a story to warm your little heart. Gail Reed hated school, but she came back, and with the help of the Shuttleworth Foundation, she transformed her old primary school into a technological marvel. Wonderful.
Kensington is a quiet, working-class suburb in Cape Town, which managed to escape much of the turmoil of the apartheid years. One of its most successful children is Gail Reed, who cut her teeth in the field of computer supplies. 2 years ago, she and her husband founded their own business in Johannesburg.
It was daunting. It was good nerves. I knew that that was going to be, after 5 years, I knew that I wanted to start my own company.
Gail's company has gone from strength to strength, but she hasn't forgotten her roots.
Hello. I can't remember any uprising in this area, and to me it just seemed as a child it was a normal upbringing. We didn't know how it was going to affect us.
Gail was schooled at Windermere Primary School in Kensington. When she was a child, the school had no library. Last year, she donated 120,000 rand to start a library and create a computer lab, but the school needed help to set it up.
We heard about the Shuttleworth Foundation that was assisting school. We then applied, and within no time, I think we were responded to, and the response was very positive, as you can see. They walked in here at about 9:20, and they told us, right, we're going to get started. We went into the corridor. I rolled out the cables, children were hands-on, everybody was involved, and it was amazing for me to see that within the space of less than 3 hours, we had all these computers, all of them were up and running, and it was all systems go.
Part of why I got interested in the project is because I wanted kids to have a different learning experience and also be prepared for what's out there.
The Tux Labs project is placing computer labs in schools across the Western Cape. In keeping with the philosophy of building on existing resources, refurbished computers are often used, running free of charge software. Volunteers are often sought within the school to create a culture of involvement and ownership. This has proved to be a very cost-effective method of deploying IT in schools.
When I spoke to the co-sponsor of this particular lab, she had 120,000 and to set up 10 computers in this particular lab. They were also under understanding that they should buy the proprietary-based licenses, which was not included in that particular budget. So the cost would have been higher.
Open source software solved that problem, as Tux Labs always installs a free-of-charge version of Linux. And the Tux Labs boffins were able to bring in cheaper, refurbished computers running on a thin client network, with just one powerful server doing all the hard work. Instead of 10 workstations, they were able to install 40, with money left over for library books.
People will realize that these things are not really sort of door stoppers. You know, you can turn them into workstations and make a real impact in a child's life.
I knew that should the school have PCs available to the kids, it would just open up the world a bit more.
You don't have to be a school to benefit from free software. Oh no, no way. Mighty businesses need enormous, vast, huge suites of Office applications, and many of them will pay for them, but some won't. Mark Shuttleworth is doing it with OpenOffice.
Today we'll be doing it with OpenOffice. OpenOffice is a business productivity suite, so it has several different pieces of functionality built into one piece of software. It has a word processor for creating documents, a spreadsheet for working with mathematical functions and tracking business expenses, and it has a presentation package that will allow you to give presentations. Today we're only going to touch on two of those pieces of functionality, the word processor and the spreadsheet. I use OpenOffice every single day. That's how I exchange business documents with colleagues here in South Africa and all over the world. No matter what software they're using to write those documents, I can usually exchange my documents with them without any trouble at all.
Creating a text document is exactly the same as how you're used to doing it, in whichever word processor you currently use. It's feature-rich and offers you a host of templates to choose from. What's more, it's fully compatible with all of the popular word processing packages you currently spend money on. The spreadsheet component of OpenOffice is equally familiar. You won't even realize that this spreadsheet isn't the one you've been using all your life. It has all the expected formula functions, and creating charts from your tables is a cinch. One major advantage of OpenOffice is the price. It's completely free, and because it's open source, developers are continually improving it, making it a very stable package.
You can find out more about OpenOffice at its website, www.openoffice.org. It's freely available and runs on Windows, on the Mac, and also on Linux.
You see, that's the good thing about OpenOffice. It's free, and it's free. It's free in both senses of the word. But if you're some big company that needs to spend lots of money, like thousands and thousands, get the free OpenOffice and give the thousands to a school that needs the money, and everyone wins. They get the money, and you get to say, I spent the money. So everyone's a winner. It's fantastic. Now, coming up as a man, a geek really, he's sort of like a guy, but kind of different in a way that he likes to be. He knows all about Freebsd, which is very exciting. It's like all the bad things without the penicillin. In the meanwhile, keep your trigger finger happy, because you need to SMS us so you can win the competition and get the thing with the thing that's got the thing. So that's going to be huge. Neil Blakey Milner. Welcome, Neil. When you say that there's freedom, or that there is, let's say, the free software kind of movement, let's just define that for people who may think that just means that there's no money changing it.
When you receive something, you should be free to use it for anything you feel like, for example. You should be free to give it to someone if you feel like it. You should be free to change it. And to be able to change it, you need to be free to have the source code for it.
How do you make money from open source?
There are a few companies who try and work entirely around services. So they provide something, they develop it all in-house, and they provide support around it.
Okay, so in your ideal world, how would software exist?
I don't see proprietary software disappearing. I don't think there's necessarily a need it should disappear. It fills a whole bunch of specific niche areas very well, especially small areas of science, things that are really hard technically. The things that you don't want to talk about, like the routers and the networks and all the rest of it. Open source makes a lot of sense.
Neil, it's not as simple as just having sort of, open source and that's it. Obviously within open source there are different areas of thought. Yeah. Can you just explain Freebsd?
For me, the philosophy of Freebsd really is providing something for anyone to do anything with, for any purpose whatsoever, without any restrictions. The minimum requirements really are that you have to tell people that when you distribute the code, that